Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of One Bypass, One Stroke, One Survivor with my dad, Bill Daly. We're trying some different things. We're going to sit across from each other in this episode, see if we like it, just an experiment. And of course, we've installed a brick wall behind us to give it a more intimate feel. And today, my dad wanted to talk about what it's like to live day to day with use of only half of his body, and in particular, the frustrations and some successes that are rather peppered throughout every day of his life. And when he shared them with me, I needed some time with him to understand what he wanted to talk about. And what was interesting to me, and I'm going to set my dad free in a second to talk about it, but what was interesting to me was that he was talking, he mentioned some frustrations that are occupational in nature, opening things, manipulating things, using your hands, things that I take for granted that he can't do because I have the freedom to, I can use both hands freely. But then there were other things that were sources of frustration for him for the last 17 years that never came to mind, never occurred to me that he would have the kinds of frustrations he have. I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'm not going to do the talking for him. But so today we're going to talk about what it's like to live day to day with a stroke for 17 years with the use of half of your body, and what kind of common frustrations and successes you experience on the regular. So off you go, Dad. Floor is yours.
Well, number one, this is not going to be very long. There, of course, after 17 years, and even some of you who have had something just a stroke for 5 years, may wind up having a lot more problems than we're going to discuss with this evening. But these are just a few incidents that kind of like, some of them pissed me off. Some of them really frustrated frustrated the hell out of me. And so why don't we start?
Sure.
Now, the very first thing, before we get started with a lot of the stroke business, is road rage. I was told by my doctor 17 years ago that they felt that my neurological makeup was not about well enough that I should be driving.
Have you driven since the stroke?
No, I haven't driven in over
Not at all.
17 years.
Not down the block. Nothing.
No. And it's frustrated the hell out of me, of course, you know. What's made matters worse,
Is it frustrating because everyone's doing the driving for you?
basically, one person.
But you get my point,
caregiver,
though.
yes.
You're always in the passenger
Yeah,
seat.
always
Okay.
in the passenger seat.
So go on.
And in doing that, it opened my eyes. Even though I realized there were a lot of crazy people behind the wheel
Sure.
on the road. Now, as I'm just sitting in the passenger seat, I'm like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. My head is just spinning around in disbelief. Like, what the hell are these people doing? Why are they doing this? Why are they making those particular moves? And it really frustrated me. Actually, some people that frustrate me have a European car, and Scott has asked me not to say anything because I'm going to alienate those drivers.
Yeah, he thinks that people who drive BMWs are a kind of driver. It's a ridiculous generalization we're going to allow
Okay.
because he's an old
Well,
guy.
I hope they're not going to be at my front door.
Go ahead.
But in any
Go
event,
ahead.
whether they're 18 or 80, the people that drive that particular European car,
Sure.
just all over the road. And it just frustrated the hell of me. Up your ass, tailgating you, hitting you with the lights, changing lanes inadvertently, not even inadvertently, just in front of a truck that's going by and just kissing his bumper and going by, being 250 feet from an exit in the left lane, and then you're cutting across 3 lanes, so you have to get off.
We get it. We
Yeah,
get it. Go
okay.
on.
So anyway, I was so upset that I went back to the hospital, and I asked them if I could have one more week of occupational therapy. And they said, Bill, you were here for 78
Sure.
days. It's impossible. Insurance company's not going to go for it. And I asked them, and I repeatedly asked again, and then finally they acquiesced to my, Scott, there it is, his acquiesced. I love that freaking word. They acquiesced to my, not demand, but
Your request.
my request.
Sure.
And for 1 week,
Yeah.
I went back to the hospital
Yeah.
and did occupational therapy for 1 week,
Right.
attempting to get the middle finger of that hand up
Yeah.
so I could show it to that bastard who was driving like a madman.
Right.
Unfortunately, by the time I got that finger up, they were a mile and a half down the road.
Nobody
And-
experienced
and
your ire.
It felt good, but in a way, I felt unfortunate that they
Yeah.
beat me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the main thing I've ever really been aggravated with. There
Is
are
the driving of the aggressive driving of others on the road as a
of
passenger.
others, yes, as a passenger,
Right.
very, very difficult, and not being able to expose myself the way I wanted to.
Sure. He doesn't mean expose himself, and he means this. So continue.
They wouldn't have passed me
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that. They wouldn't have
They'll,
passed me.
they'll sooner
Yeah.
see this anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So, and there are incidents. There are things that have happened in my kitchen. Things that I take for granted. That actually, because of the setup that we have today, we're going to be able to visualize some of those frustrations that I have, and I would imagine that you may have faced the same problem. Most of what I'm doing and frustrating is because I want to save my caregiver some extra time. I want to give her the opportunity to do the laundry without worrying about where I am. If I want to get something, I can get it on my own. So I think those may be somewhat amusing, but they're also very frustrating. In that same area, and Scott wouldn't allow me to visualize this, but I remember, I think in one episode at the very beginning, we began this, I told you to the stroke survivors to make sure that they put their milk or their juice or other liquids in smaller bottles.
Yeah, we covered a
Making it
little bit of
easier
that
for
in
them
another
to
video.
reach in the refrigerator, make
Yeah.
it easier for them to open.
Yeah.
But there were plenty of times when that wasn't possible for me. So you couldn't open the thing, you couldn't open the jug, you couldn't open the
Sure.
can, forget about it. So I would stand up from the wheelchair and try to force it open. I'm still not getting enough leverage with just my good hand. So I would put the bottle in between my legs. I think you can guess why Scott wouldn't let me do that one. So now it's in between, tautly in between my legs, and I'm digging at the cap,
Right.
and the cap comes off. You can hear
And
that.
it's like a volcano.
But it's between your legs. You've got it taut, and before you know it, it's milk, water, soda, or orange juice,
All over your lap.
and the floor. And the two latter ones, it's tough getting away from, because now you hope that if they stay downstairs doing laundry, they're down there for an hour and a half, because now you've got to try to clean that crap off the floor, which is so sticky that they're ready to kill you when they come upstairs.
So let me ask you a question. So you're trying to exert some independence, not just for the purposes of being independent, but to actually reduce the burdens of those around you,
Exactly.
who you know your limitations challenge, right? They're challenged by your limitations, right? They're tasked differently because of your limitations. So not only are you trying to exert a little independence, but you're trying to free them up, right?
Right.
And sort of the paradox is that the irony is that in your efforts to free them up or reduce their burdens, you create more because you spill things on the floor.
Exactly, more troubles. Okay. Also, to friends and family out there, okay, if you're gonna come over to visit me, and you know the sweet tooth I have, and a lot of people have, don't bring over that. If you're shopping in ShopRite for the weekend barbecue, don't buy those plastic box goddamn cakes that you can never open the box properly. Okay, it's too difficult. And when you do get one side open, if you pull the other side open, people 10 blocks away can hear, oh, Bill Daly must be opening a box of cake, because I can hear that
Because you're
noise.
ripping it to pieces?
Not that I'm ripping it to pieces, but it's so difficult to get your fingers underneath with
Sure.
the good hand to pull open, and they're on opposite
tab
ends.
and everything.
It's not well.
Like the
they're
Entenmann's
in
box?
plastic. No, they're just plastic.
Oh, I know what you're talking
and they
about.
snap in.
Yes, I know what you're talking
Oh
about.
my
Yeah.
God! So do me a favor. I know you're not going to come over often. You come over once, twice, and maybe your caregiver friend, your lover, your husband says, "Why don't we go visit Bill and Anna?" No. It's too depressing going over there. I don't want to go over there. You go over. I always come home feeling bad about myself. Well, if you come over, or if your wife comes over, bring over a goddamn cake that you bought at a bakery, okay, with a box and a string around it and a nice little bow that I can break open. Or when I want to hear something in the middle of the night, I can open it without anybody else hearing me. Now, unfortunately, one night I got up 4 o'clock in the morning, and I knew there was a cake in there, in one of those boxes. I got in a wheelchair, made a ton of noise, I'm sure, went into the kitchen, opened up that box, glommed down a piece of cake, and then in going over to throw the plate in the trash, I fell out of my wheelchair. Eventually, what happened was I tore the meniscus in my left leg, but I'm on the floor and I can't get up, and it's 4:15 in the morning now. So I crawled into the living room because there's a rug there, lay down on the rug. At about 6:30, my daughter-in-law comes upstairs. She sees him on the floor. She thinks I'm doing exercises. She goes right back downstairs again. At about 8:35, 8:45, I think it was, my wife got up. She realized that everybody else in the house was asleep, including her sister and brother upstairs. So she puts a pillow under my head, a little blanket over me, and then she disappears till about 10 o'clock. And then finally everybody was up, and they got me up off the floor. Just a little incident. Just don't buy the goddamn...
That was a story about cake?
That
You
was,
being on the floor with
yeah,
the story
yeah,
about
it
cake.
was. But it was a story about the plastic box. Don't be so frugal. Why say if you're gonna come to my
And if
house,
you don't want to see my dad laying on the floor,
yeah.
don't get him cakes that are sealed in plastic containers.
And it's a drag. Yes, it's a pain in the tail dragging yourself 3 rooms to get just to get on a rug with it. It might be a rug. Now, there are 2 other instances, but those we're going to visualize in a little while. Also, respect and people recognizing who you are and what you've become, unfortunately. You can go to church or your house of worship, and you can wheel in, and people will see you. Oh, he's in a wheelchair. And people will rush over to you. How can we help you? Where would you like to be?
Sure, they're accommodating in that
Can
situation.
we have
Right.
if you belong to a denomination or you belong to a religion where there are hosts that they give out, we could have somebody come down and give you the
Yeah, I
host.
get it.
I understand. No, that's I'll do it. And they're surprised at you how emphatic I am about wheeling myself up and taking the host the way I would normally do it. Uh, it it's a bit of independence that you want to show and you feel good about. Okay. On the other hand, I may go out and be with friends and go into a soccer game with one of my grandchildren or a professional game, going to see the Red Bulls. And as I'm walking across the concourse, wheeling across the concourse, there's somebody or 1 or 2 people handing out pamphlets. And there are 7 or 8 people in our group, and I give everybody a pamphlet. They don't give one to me. What's the matter? What's wrong with me? I paid for my ticket. I paid for 4 of the other tickets. I'm a fan. I want to know
Sure.
what's going on. Totally ignore me. When I'm in Manhattan, to go into Manhattan to go see a play, and you're wheeling down Fifth Avenue or Sixth Avenue, going towards Radio City, and there's a guy there who's, unfortunately, he's passing out these little pamphlets. If you want to go see a Triple X show, if you want to see, go to
In 1977, maybe. I haven't seen that. I worked in Manhattan for 10 years, but I get it. Go ahead.
okay, well, I'm envisioning it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
you're
I'm
envisioning it.
envisioning
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And he's just one of the culprits. That's
Sure.
all. And he's passing out. If you want to go see a bottomless show, a topless show, whatever the case may
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
and everybody else gets one, but not me. I get horny too. I have desires. Why not me? What the hell? Also, now, not in the same vein, but I go to the doctor, and I go to see my urologist, and we walk into the office, and he says, "Hi, Bill, how are you?" He says, "Listen, I have Mr. Sweeney here today. He's a student. Do you mind if he sits in and goes over the exam with you?" I said, "Certainly not. Of course, that's fine." So my doctor gives me all of the questions. How you feeling? They do the blood pressure, etc. And he does the digital exam. When he's finished, he says, "Okay, now I'm going to leave you with Mr. Sweeney." And he's a student, as you know. So he goes through the total of the questions and answers, and then he starts to put on a glove. And I said to myself, "Oh no, he's going to no, really?" And he says, "Do you mind?" And I say, "Oh well, I'll help this kid's future. Maybe he's going to work with me later on in his life." And he does a digital exam with me, and I'm not really happy, but what the hell, I acquiesce to his demand, so to speak. So about a year later, I'm back in the office again, just a regular checkup, and he's got another kid with him. We'll call him Mr. Collins. And the doctor says to me, "Bill, we're finished now. Would you mind if Mr. Collins goes?" So, and I said, "Sure." And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, "No, you're not doing it this time. You're not doing it this time." So what happens is he finishes over the questions and answers, and he goes to start to put off a glove. And I said, "What is that for?" He says, "Well, you agreed to." No. Unless you can pull a '57 Corvette out of that, pal, you ain't going anywhere near my ass. That was just another one of the incidents that just really upset me. And we're going to cut this a little shorter because we want to do these visualized
I can
problems.
do that separately. It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to talk about toilet technology. Now, I've had a stroke. 895,000 people a year have stroke. 795,000 a year have stroke. Quite a few of us have a urinary problem as far as flow, when you have to go on my continent, incontinent. What's happened with me is that when I know I have to go, I have to go. If I'm watching a good movie and there's 15 minutes left, I can't wait till the 15 minutes are over. So I have to go. My wife installed in the bathroom, and I'm sure I would imagine a lot of people have. I'm hoping not for anybody else that's had a stroke problem. But my wife has installed a toilet that I have to stand. I have to sit. I haven't stood in 17 years. It's dangerous. I could fall very easily.
Sure.
So the cover has to be pulled up. Now the cover, which health-wise is better for you to keep down after whatever job you're doing, because it will spray germs all over. But now I want to get the seat. Sometimes it's up, and I have to count now. 1, 2, up to 15 seconds before that seat gets back down. I don't want to slam it down because I got to go so bad, because I'm going to piss off my wife and have to replace the toilet. But then again, there is another 15 seconds that I got to stand there. I have to go so badly, and half of it is running down my leg while I'm waiting for that damn thing to come down. And it would be the same thing if I was standing up. I pull the seat up, I'd have to wait another 15 seconds just before I can go. Very frustrating. Something to laugh about after you think about it. But I don't know how many people have ran into that problem. If you're out in a store with your wife, you're at a shopping mall and you run into one of those problems.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? And then you're worried about stains in your pants.
Sure.
Well, that's all I have to say, really. I just wanted to bring about a few of those things that annoyed me, that I found amusing, and now we're going to try to add on to this with the visualization of some of the problems that I alluded to earlier. Oh, one last thing. I don't know if anybody's ever had this problem. Phantom foot, phantom limb. This is something that's usually attributed to people who have amputations, where they feel that that limb that they've lost is still there, and they can feel it, and you want to place it where you were. It's not uncommon in people that have strokes. By and large, from what I understand, from what I've read, it's mostly attributed to people who have strokes on the right-hand side. Mine was a left side hemorrhage. But I can recall for months after I first had my hospital stay that I could be sitting in the front of the car and thinking that I would like to move my leg, put my foot somewhere else. It was that I needed to. I was uncomfortable, and when I looked down, my leg was nowhere near where I thought it was. It was sitting on my left foot. It was up in a corner. It was up against the door. And when I would go to bed at night, there were times when I would want to. I feel a little chilly, and I would want to put my right hand under the cover. So as I raise it up to put it under the cover, I realized that what's coming up is the cover with my hand already underneath it. I didn't even realize that it was there. So I'm just curious if any of you guys want to respond to this particular episode, whether or not you have experienced that same particular.
I'm sure
it still happens occasionally, but not as much as it
I'm
did.
sure they have, yeah.
So I have a box of cereal on my lap. What I'm going to try to do, what I can do successfully, is open the box with my left hand, getting all the tabs up, working on the right side, then going to the left, pulling the tabs up until I get it open. Now I'm holding the box. This is an extra large box. This is not the same one you would buy in the supermarket. This comes from one of those big box places. Now I've got these tabs also to open, separating the openings. Okay, that's open, that's open. And then I have to try to open the packaging. That has been the problem. It's a problem that I actually discussed with the manufacturer twice. Actually, they jerked me around, didn't give me an answer, and I have to call back the main corporate office. But if I take this box, the bag out, and hold the bag with my left hand and try to pull it open, I can't do it. It's just impossible for me to pull it open. So then if I would turn it around and try to open it with my good hand, it's not working. It's not happening. This bag is sealed in such a fashion that I can't get this box of cereal, the bag of cereal open, that I can successfully do that. Again, without asking my caregiver to come and help me. Just one other small step that I can do, putting the cereal in a bowl, getting the small glass bottle of milk, and encouraging myself to have breakfast done by myself without anybody else having to worry about it. In case anybody's wondering, these are Gucci pajamas. I just want you to know that I'd like to dress in style. Now, the second other large problem that I have, besides opening a box of cereal, is a loaf of bread. When you open a loaf of bread and then open it up after it's open and realize that the bread is encased in another set of plastic paper or wrapping, then you've got to open it again. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Now you have to try to fold the inside of the bag and then the outside of the bag at the same time. Now, getting it open requires that you're able to maneuver the little plastic tie that goes inside these particular loaves of bread. Now, it works well. It's a little bit difficult, but it works pretty good in getting it open. The problem is now you want to close it. So you're holding up a full loaf of bread and twisting the loaf around, getting it in the proper position, but you can't maneuver the ties back again as tight as they were. Yeah, they're sort of wound a little, but it's not tight. Definitely not as tight as it was before you had it. And for freshness, you might want to get this as tight as you can. Now, there are the best way I found, because I've used a few of these other processes, little plastic snap that goes on that will probably break or has broken many times trying to get it on. And then you've got to be able to maneuver, holding the loaf with your good hand, getting your bad hand to fit inside that little clip. That's not going to work. And as far as going back to the little wire, that's out of the question also. Over and over again, it's the same thing. What I've done, which your caregivers may not think that this looks very esoteric, but I've taken a clothespin, a tiny little clothespin used to hang up whatever it may be, and I've clipped that onto the bread, closed it up tightly that it's fine. That's what I do when I want to close up a loaf of bread. Thank you.